Hi guys, welcome to today's YouTube video. Today's video is all about intimacy. Now, I know that I've already done one episode on intimacy, but this one is Intimacy 2.0. So last night I actually did a seminar on intimacy with couples, and I just wanted to kind of recap a few things that was discussed and also get you guys ready for Valentine's Day, which is right around the corner. Now, in my opinion, love and intimacy should be expressed every day to your partner. And I know we tend to come together and celebrate it on one particular day, on Valentine's Day, but I think it's important to remember that it's not just one day, it's every day. How do you communicate love to your spouse or partner? So intimacy, what is it? As I've said before, I love Esther Perel's description of intimacy is into me, see. And really thinking about what that means to you guys. So into me is really saying, into me, see who I am. And I think it's important that every now and then you and your partner come together and really start to discuss how do we celebrate intimacy in our relationship. And really, so first, like I've said in another video, first really describing or defining what intimacy means to you in your relationship. And how do you want to participate or celebrate in it? You know, oftentimes, and even last night in our seminar, I asked every couple to define intimacy, but each person define it. And in most of the relationships, each person defined intimacy a little bit different. And so sometimes where this becomes a problem is if one person defines it this way and another person defines it this way, then what happens? You know, and we're not sharing in what it means. It's, you know, this person over here is thinking intimacy is this, and this is how I'm participating. And then the person over here is thinking intimacy is this. And then there's a lot of miscommunication or misinterpretation and assumption making. And like with anything in relationships, the minute we start making assumptions, not so good things happen. So remember to clearly define what intimacy means to you. The other thing to do is really talk about the difference between sex, love, and intimacy in your relationship, and you know how you participate in communicating intimacy verbally or non-verbally, how you express love to one another and the different kinds of love in your relationship, and then how you take time to participate in your sex life. You know, remember, making your sex life and your relationship a priority is really important. And, you know, your sex life doesn't have to just be about sex. It's also non-sexual affection, you know. So in what ways are we coming together and really clearly defining those three areas and participating in them, not just thinking about them, but actually doing them. You know, remember, love is not just a word that's expressed. Love is also an action. And so, you know, there are many ways that your partner or that you want to feel loved. So it's important to express that and let your partner know. And some other things that I think are important when it comes to intimacy, and Esther Perel talks about this too, is, you know, is really talking about the difference between love and desire. And she says love is to have and desire is to want. And she does talk about how you want the security of a relationship, but you also want mystery. And there's a paradox there. You know, we want predictability, but we also want surprise. And so when we think about relationships and intimacy, how do we participate in both of those things? And you know, so I like to kind of think about why not have a couple really clearly define when the times that they feel safe and secure and what makes them feel that sense of desire. You know, how can they participate in still exploring one another, even if you've been married for 25 years? And one of the ways that I tell couples to do that is to look at some of Dr. John Gottman's work. And, you know, I'm going to talk about Gottman. You know, downloading his, you know, free app where he asks you to, where there's different card decks on how to continue to ask questions to one another to really help explore each other's world. Or there's even sex questions or salsa cards, mild, medium, and hot, that really get you guys talking and connecting. to me, intimacy is also about connection and making the time and making the commitment to continue to come together and connect to one another. And and so the different types of intimacy are emotional, physical, sexual, intellectual, spiritual, and there's even, I heard someone talk the other day about experiential or experiences, you and your partner creating experiences together that you normally don't share with anybody else. So even if you look at there's so many different kinds of intimacy in a relationship. And to me, it's making making meaning intentional, like the meaning of our experiences together. How do we have fun together, and how do we communicate on a deep level about things that are important to us, or how we see the world or how we see ourselves in the world. And these are typically conversations that you just have with one another that you don't necessarily share with anybody else. And so taking that time out to really say, in what ways do I turn towards my spouse or my partner and create that deep connection with one another, whether it's through the Gottman card decks or, making a commitment to a date night where you try new things every week. Intimacy to me is also about creating aliveness in the relationship. And the other thing that Esther says is it's also important to nurture parts of yourself kind of separately. And, the more that you kind of nurture yourself, you also nurture the relationship. And, one way she talks about this is if you think about when you first met and fall in love, you were kind of doing your thing and you were asking, and you wanted to spend a lot of time together and you were asking questions. And what was attractive, or what attracted you most to your partner? What drew you to your partner in the beginning? Oftentimes, it is that they were kind of doing their own thing and they were coming and talking to you about it, right? And so when we get into a relationship, sometimes we stop doing those individual things. So remember, it's important to do our individual things that make us feel alive, that make us bring confidence, because guess what? You bring that back to your relationship, and that also helps cultivate aliveness. So taking care of yourself and trying new things, and really finding that balance of independence and togetherness is unique to each of your relationships. So, all of these things require conversation, and not just a, hey, how was your day, but require deep conversations on what's the meaning of intimacy? How do we participate in each kind of intimacy? How do we take care of ourselves? What brings aliveness to ourselves individually, and what brings aliveness to us as a couple? And what are the ways that we can kind of create that deep level of understanding? So when we feel like, passion's kind of waning a little bit, which it does in relationships, we know how to come to the table, metaphorically, and start to bring back passion in our relationship. Whether it's trying something new or, creating space for affection or sex in your relationship, or participating in communicating love to one another. So whatever that might be, it's important to start the conversation now. Okay, so what is intimacy in your relationship? How do you kind of participate in intimacy, in celebrating love, in taking time out to make your sex life a priority? How do you really understand the different kinds of intimacy in your relationship? And how do you find that balance of independence and togetherness? And most importantly, come back and continue to nurture the romantic or the marital relationship that you guys have together. All right. Well, I hope you have a great day, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for weekly updates all about relationships.